Let's take a look at some Jeff Beck techniques. Since he recently died, it's a good time to remember him by doing the best thing we can, which is honoring his memory by stealing his shit. So, he does a lot of things kind of like this, right? So, I saw a lot of YouTubers say Jeff Beck is unimitatable. You cannot sound like Jeff Beck. You can't sound like anybody because we all have our own brain and we use it to think and to make music, but you can certainly rip off some key elements about his technique and sound. Let's start with the most basic and important thing about his stuff. Much like Wes Montgomery, he's mostly a thumb player. He does use his index finger as well, but most of the playing is done with the thumb, and the thumb gets this really great touch and attack on the guitar. And to really get the sound, you gotta first of all make sure you can pick with your thumb and get a nice sound from the guitar acoustically, right? So if I'm just playing blues licks in C, I want to really make sure I'm using this kind of like pillowy surface of the thumb, using a lot of these rest strokes with the thumb, meaning go through the string and land on the next one. You see him all over his playing. And this is before you even start integrating the bar. So maybe just practice playing some lines, blues lines and stuff like that with your thumb. Tip number 2 about Jeff Beck stuff. When you're setting up your amp, you want to crank the gain, and if you don't have a master volume on your amp, maybe get a pedal and get a lot of gain, more than you intend to use. So your guitar on 10 needs to be so gainy that you just get this like, ooh, kind of like sustaining sound. If you look at it on Pro Tools, it will just look like a big worm, right? It sounds something like this. The amp I'm using isn't even really getting me all the way there right now. This is a Sewer Badger, and even with its gain channel, I'm probably gonna need a distortion pedal to really drive it to the place I'm talking about, where it's just sustain, feedback, all that stuff. From that point, you want to roll the volume back to where the sound becomes choppier. When you look at it on Pro Tools, it's gonna look like little triangles. You'll see an attack and then it will decay. So if I have the volume on like 3 or 4, it's gonna sound like this. So notes have kind of like a defined beginning, middle, and end. They sort of taper off kind of quickly with the volume rolled down. But now you have this option of really using the volume knob kind of like a violinist uses his bow. So it elongates the end and the tail of the note. So you can go. If you add vibrato, it will kind of, push the note up and down. And really what it does when you have like an amp blaring, since some notes get sympathetic feedback, it will kind of tickle that thing from your speaker and encourage that interaction between the pickups and the speaker and your amp to catch and to create that like endless sustain thing. I can't really make that happen at home with the IR, but that's the idea. So kind of the bulk of your playing is with the volume not open all the way. Now you want to set up your sound with the bass and mids sort of, definitely the bass and low mid sort of low and the treble pretty high, because you really are going to use the tone knobs to control your brightness. Now if you dial in your sound to just sound good with the tone knobs all the way open, sound just bright enough, then as you darken them, your guitar is going to sound very lackluster. What you want to do is set it up to be shrill, to where it's way more than you want on the treble side, and that way the tone knobs actually do something. So if I show you my bridge setting right now, this is with the bridge tone knob on 3. It sounds like this. If I open the bridge all the way up, it sounds like this. Has a sharpness to it. I don't really want that. And now as I'm playing, if I want to play kind of a brighter passage, I can just roll up like from 4 to 6 or something like that. So in the context of a lick, right? And it's really, the bass side of the guitar can withstand having a little more treble on it, and the top could withstand being a little bit more rolled off to get those round notes on top that aren't too shrill. So this is kind of like a rolled off, in terms of tone, sound in the very top of the guitar. And here's a brighter lick in the bottom. So that's the idea in terms of controlling the guitar. Another thing that's really powerful is playing position 2, right? These 2 pickups, and controlling the tone. For me, it's the middle tone knob. It controls, you know, the master tone for this setting, but like a rolled off sound here sounds very Jeff Becky. Has a sort of like really defined round attack when you do that. Playing these chords, 2 3-note chords too, like, you know, double stops and 3-note structures with the gain, and then rolling the gain in is also very Becky, right? Another trick that I really love is the pinch of the whammy bar to create that rattle sound, right? Very, very nice trick, and he does that a lot with double stops and even with harmonics. With harmonics, it sounds totally sick, right? It's like, especially you grab 2 harmonics. A lot of those kind of licks. One of his greatest abilities is to play entire melodies using harmonics and, you know, overtones on the guitar. He obviously doing the triadic stuff, but another thing he can do is kind of bend multi-note melodies in tune emerging from one note. So like he'll grab this G. By the way, getting a good harmonic sound, a lot of time what you do is you depress the bar a little bit and then release it into the note to make it catch. It's kind of harder to hit it cold, even though it's possible. It sort of catches a little bit easier if you press it in and you go. Hear that? If you scoop into the note, you kind of statistically have a lot higher chance of making that note catch and that harmonic to ring clear. So a lot of half-steppy things. The thing that's pretty hard to do, I might embarrass myself in a minute when I try, is go like, you know, note, half step, and then a whole tone under that, right? Right? Like a do, ti, la, ti, do kind of thing. Now, the thing is, when you're trying to play these melodies with the bar, What you really don't want to do when you end the note, because you have to apply downward pressure to keep the note steady, is you don't want it to go sort of uncontrollably up. It's better to kind of let notes disappear downward. If I'm here, it's okay to do those kind of things when you're soloing, right? Something you can do is practice maybe simple melodies, things based around triads. Take like You Are My Sunshine or something like that and try to make a Jeff Becky kind of thing happening with the bar. Sort of like that, you know, that's the idea. You can add those trills, you play with the volume. What a lot of people say about Jeff Beck is like, it's amazing how the endings of each note are perfect, all the envelopes are perfect. They're not perfect. They're good, you know, it's like he's very good, he's really listening, he's really in the driver's seat of playing melody, and he's constantly messing with the volume, so the values keep being different, and that's a big part of that style. Another thing you do if you don't want to mess with the harmonics, which is more of an arranged concept, less improvised, is just, you know, play some melodies, you know, like he plays like that's a pork pie hat, but you know, any sort of like jazz type melody really lends itself to that kind of playing, like Louis Armstrong. Really put the life behind it, and you really address each word in the song with its own envelope, meaning volume, scoops, bends, you know. So if I'm playing like a jazz melody, I always play in this style, like. So another big thing is playing with two springs in the back. That tends to really help reduce the tension in the bridge and allow you to do these bends that are a half step or a minor third pretty easily, just using the weight of, you know, your fingers really. So I can really bend pretty freely because there's not a lot of tension here. It's a little bit of a trade-off. People that play in a Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of setup obviously can't do that because the tension's so intense. So I hope these tips were helpful. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, leave a comment, join our Patreon, check out a bunch of other content. I also made a whole other Jeff Beck lesson. It's going to be linked right here or right there. If there's anything there, I covered a little bit of different things there, so maybe check out this video. And yeah, rest in peace, Jeff Beck. See ya.